Well, this morning we are going to focus on the secret of harmonious relationships. And in order to do that, I have to go back to the very, very beginning. This is the Big Bang. One moment, there is nothing of a physical nature. There is a void, there is an emptiness in the universe. In the next moment, in a split second, the universe for millions of miles is filled with physical matter, tiny subatomic matter called quarks. It's like a giant dust storm that created our universe. Now, these little tiny bits of subatomic material had to bond together in order to survive. In order to bond together, they had to come into harmony with each other. And many of them did that. They came into harmony, they bonded, they attracted other bits of subatomic material, they bonded. The bits that didn't do that, that didn't harmonize, were extinguished forever. The bits that did went on to live an eternal existence. They exist right now. They're in the atoms of everything that we see. Those tiny bits of subatomic material went on to form atoms. The atoms then had to come into harmony together and bond in order to form a molecule. The molecules then had to come together in harmony and bond in order to form cells. The cells had to harmonize in order to create physical substance, and here we are today. A result of harmonization to the very smallest degree to what we see all around us. Now, the point is that harmony is the nature of the universe. Nothing can exist without it. We have to harmonize, and in most cases throughout the universe, everything is in harmony. Now, I bring this to your attention because in relationships, there has to be a sense of harmony if they are going to benefit us and if they are going to survive. Relationships are everything. There's not a single thing you can think about, yourself or your life, that doesn't involve a relationship. Whether it's a relationship with yourself, a relationship with God, a relationship with life, a relationship with other people or other things. Your whole life in totality is relationships. 85% of all your relationships are with other people. Now, the health of your relationships with other people is exactly the same as the health of your relationship in your life. If your relationships are characterized by well-being, then your life is going to be characterized by well-being. If they're happy relationships, then your life is going to be happy. If they're peaceful relationships, your life is going to be peaceful. Everything is relationships, and the health or the character of our relationships is exactly the same as the health or the character of not only ourselves, but our lives. So that brings up the problem. What about all those relationships we have that aren't so healthy, that don't contain a certain degree of harmony? And we all have people in our lives that create a sense of disharmony for us. It's because we have different ways of living, we have different ways of thinking. Some people have issues, and they struggle with various attitudes that aren't particularly harmonious. So how do we handle that? How do we handle those people in our lives that we just can't seem to establish that harmony with? Jesus gives us a lesson on this. Jesus was walking down the path on a regular, ordinary day. He came across the blind man. The blind man said, "Can you please heal me?" Jesus stopped and he healed the blind man. Word quickly spread. Pretty soon people were gathering around Jesus and asking him to perform another miracle. Jesus said no, very calmly. He didn't get upset or he didn't get resistant. He just said, "No, I won't do that." Pretty soon the Pharisees came. And the Pharisees were the religious leaders of the day. They're always trying to unseat Jesus as being a Messiah or as being a spiritual leader. So they came and said, "We believe healing the blind man was just a trick. Let's see another miracle to prove that you really do have the powers that you do." Jesus very calmly said, "No." They persisted, and pretty soon the crowd began to get a bit rowdy, and they began to yell at him. The disciples got a bit scared, and they took Jesus aside. He said, "Just do a miracle. Do something to quiet the crowd." Jesus said no. The disciples didn't know what to do, so they went off and they got Jesus' mother, Mary, and they brought her back to the scene. Now, keep in mind, she was not only Jesus' mother, but she was his Jewish mother, and Jewish mothers have tremendous influence over their children. If there's any Jewish people in the audience, you'll know what I mean. So Mary comes, she pulls Jesus aside, and she says, "Son, you have to do a miracle." And Jesus said, "No." And she says, "Son, you have to do a miracle." And Jesus said, "No." And Mary said, "Your brothers are here and I'm here. We are your family. Please, for our sake, do a miracle to calm the crowd." And at that point, Jesus said, "You are not my family if you're not for me. If you're not for me, you're against me." In other words, he is saying, what you're asking me to do, what you're trying to tell me to do, just doesn't work for me. That's not what I want to do. That's not what's good for me. That's not what's good for what I'm trying to do in my ministry. And then he moved over to a group of people that had been for him or supporting him in his position all along, and he said, "These people are my family." In essence, what Jesus was doing in that moment is he was controlling the influence that his mother, his brothers, the disciples, and the mob had on him. They were all trying to influence him to do a miracle, and he was controlling that influence by diminishing it so he wasn't influenced by their demands or their requests. He was following his inner guide, his spiritual guide, to live his life the way he needed to live it. Now, the reason I bring this up is because we live in this world and we interact with people all the time. Everybody has an influence on everybody else who they interact with. Here right now, I have an influence on you, whether that's good, bad, positive, negative, likable, unlikable. It's an influence. I'm influencing you in that I am creating within you an emotional feeling. If we meet after the service and we begin to talk, you have an influence on me. And that influence can be positive or it can be negative. It can be good or it can be bad. So the point is, in our lives, we have these people that have a big influence on us because sometimes they're family members, sometimes they're people we work with, sometimes they're next door neighbors, sometimes they're friends, but they have a big influence on us. They have an emotional charge that relates to us, and that creates a relationship within us. See, the relationship that I have with anybody isn't mutually shared. The relationship I have with Will, for instance, it isn't mutually shared. That relationship is mine and it's mine alone. It's represented within me based on how Will has influenced me in the past. He's a wonderful fellow. I like him very much. The relationship I have within me is very healthy. It gives me a sense of well-being. If there's somebody else that I was at odds with and that we were conflicting with, I have a relationship with that person. It's mine alone. It's within me. It's characterized by the emotional influence that that person left on me. So what I'm saying is, as we go through life, we develop relationships, which is an exchange, but the relationships belong to us individually. They are characterized by the influence of the other person. So this brings up the problem, what do we do when we have somebody in our life, somebody in our family, somebody in our neighborhood that has a negative influence on us? We try to work things out. It just doesn't seem to be. We are opposites. We collide. What do we do with those people? We do what Jesus did. We control the influence that they have on us. Now, if you look at the front page of your bulletin, I've drawn out a short diagram, and actually I got this idea from Ed Nickel many years ago. But this is a circle of influence. In the middle, where there's a bright light, that's where we gather those people around us that have a positive influence on us. They are for us. They support us. They love us. They go along with us when we're having bad days. They're there to share the joy when we have good days. They might be friends. They might be family. They might be work people. We don't know. But in the middle, that is the positive influence. That's where the point of harmony is. We allow those people into that space that have a positive influence on us. You have somebody in your life that's not a positive influence, you move them out a bit, control the influence so that they have less influence on you. Those people that you just can't be around for one reason or another, you continue to move them out until they move into the very dark area and they have no influence on you at all. Now, this doesn't mean that you love them any less. This doesn't mean that you don't have compassion for them, that you don't care for them. It just that means that your exposure to them has to be limited to the point where there's no influence or very little influence, whatever it might be, where you can be in harmony with their existence. You know, every family has a character in it, whether it's immediate family or cousins or uncles or aunts or whatever, that sometimes gets a little bit unruly. In my particular family, we have a drunk. And that drunk, when he shows up at family situations, creates negative energy. He gets belligerent. He gets obstinate. He doesn't watch his language. Sometimes he speaks in very profane and obscene ways. And it has come to the point where the family gatherings and the holiday gatherings just aren't harmonious when he's present. He influences people in a bad way. So we go to this particular person and say, we love you very much. We want you at the family functions, but one or two things have to happen. Either you have to come sober or don't come at all. He chose not to come at all. And that's okay. In making that choice, and it was a very, very difficult one, but in making that choice, we had to control the influence he had, not only in the family gathering, but on all the people that were there, control the influence down to the point where there was no influence at all at that time, because it wasn't for our well-being, it wasn't for our good, it didn't support us in what we were trying to accomplish. So when I say control the influence that other people have on you, that can be as minimal as meeting somebody at the grocery store standing in line who for some reason wants to take out their anger on you, or somebody in traffic. You control that influence, you turn it down to the point they have no influence on you at all. Or it can be somebody that you're very, very close to, somebody that you love. It can be somebody that you live with. But the fact is, this is your life. If you're going to attune yourself to the harmony of the universe, you have to have harmony within you. That harmony within you comes from the relationships that you have. And if there's a disharmonious relationship that can't be healed, that can't be corrected, you have to lessen the influence. And sometimes that means putting them at a distance where you have very little contact, if any. As I said before, this is a very tough decision to make, but once it's done, you begin to see that your life is really better off, healthier, more wholesome with this person at a distance. You can still send your prayers to them, you can still send your love to them, it's just that you can't have that influence that is there when you're up close and present with them. Relationships are everything. The health of your relationships equals the health of your life. To create a healthy life and a wholesome life, it is simply monitoring or controlling the influence that comes to us. And the second thing is monitoring and controlling the influence that we have on other people. To be compassionate, to be caring, to be loving, to be kind. And once again, sometimes when it's not possible to be that way to another person, it is okay to create a little distance, control our influence on them, sometimes down to where there's no influence at all. But nevertheless, we find a place for everybody in our life where we can be in harmony with them. That is the nature of the universe. That is not an impossibility. Every single person, every single thing in your life has a point of harmony, and it's up to us to control that and place them in our lives where we can live in harmony with it all. So I invite you to just think about that for a moment as we move into meditation, that this is your life. You have the control over it. Every relationship is yours to do whatever you choose to do with, and you have control over that. And harmony is the first preference for the way we want to live our lives. We'll now move into meditation. Take a moment to take a deep breath. Slowly exhale. Feel your entire body become relaxed. And take another deep breath. Slowly exhale, becoming more and more relaxed. As your breathing slows down, your mind slows down, and you move to that special place within where you find peace, where you find harmony, and where you find love. Jesus said, love your enemy and pray for those who curse you. But he didn't say hang out with them or move in with them. Sometimes to love and to bless has to be done from afar. Everything in life fits together. Everything in your life fits together. It's just that some things need to be on the outer edge where they don't have a negative influence on you. When we become mindful of those things in our lives that hamper our peace of mind, that don't support who we are or the things that we want to do, that discriminate against us or demand too much of us, there's a place in our lives for those people. And it's up to each of us to control the influence to the point where harmony comes into place. Peace of mind is our greatest desire. Harmony is our most natural state of being. And love is the greatest thing we can experience. And it all begins with harmony.
And as I speak these words, please make them your own and say them back to yourself. On this day, I dedicate myself to peace on earth. In harmony with myself, my life, and all others. I live this day with a peaceful mind, a peaceful heart, and a peaceful spirit. And so it is.
Come begin